This is Booking It to Financial Freedom, show number 13.
And implementing everything in this book. And it's only been a week, but honestly, it has made me feel so much more in control of my day. The rearview mirror syndrome, constantly blaming what's happened, where you are now, blaming that for what's happened to you in the past.
And I think this is a huge pitfall for most people. They judge their self-worth on all of the mistakes that they made in the past. They're just miserable because they can't get over those things. What you are tomorrow definitely does not equal what you were in the past. Mm-hmm. What you are tomorrow is based on what you do today.
And this is going to be probably people's number one excuse.
Absolutely.
Is you're telling me the miracle morning takes an hour. I don't have another hour in my day.
The bottom line is, if you want to do something bad enough, you're going to find time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Booking It to Financial Freedom, where we explore literature from some of the most successful experts in their field to help you build a blueprint for personal growth and financial freedom. Join us as we examine a new book every month and break down key concepts that help you get out of the rat race and on track to start building a life better than you ever imagined.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, Amanda Schneider, realtor and investor, and I'm here with my co-host and teammate, Jamie Booth. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Amanda, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm super stoked to start digging into this book.
Me too.
It's a great one. I think it'll change it could potentially change a lot of people's lives. I know it had a huge impact on mine.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I know one of the things we really wanted to accomplish with this podcast was helping people expand their mindset, and this is one of the best books for that. It is just a number one mindset book, absolutely,
yeah.
To then also show you healthy habits to have in your morning as well.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's all about capturing the day and completely changing your mindset. I love it.
Yeah. And so you and I did the incline along with Colleen, our other partner, yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that was how we announced this book and which book we were going to read in April. So that was really fun. And obviously people, if they haven't read the book yet, they'll start to understand why it was we did the incline. But it was part of our own miracle morning yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would find that real fun. That was painful.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. But
it was a good wake-up call for me to know that I am not I used to be a really good athlete, mm-hmm. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but
sure.
I played rugby at a fairly high level, and I've let myself slip a little bit here lately, and that was a good slap in the face.
Mm-hmm. It's good to have those gut checks once in a while. But to your defense, too, always doing something new is challenging the first time. You know, like Colleen and I were warning you that there's a false summit, and so that you shouldn't get your hopes up that we're at the top, things like that. But once you do it again, I think you'll definitely improve your time.
Consistency for sure.
Yeah. So something else that we like to do along with this podcast is that we aren't doing this podcast just for everyone else. We're also doing it for ourselves. Part of the reason we wanted to start this podcast is so that we would keep each other accountable mm-hmm. with this podcast to reading one book a month.
Yep. Yeah, that and these healthy habits that we're trying to reinforce.
Yeah, that was my point, to do the actual things that we're learning in the book. So like last month, I think you and I both really reevaluated our finances and our budget and stuff. And so then once I finished this book, as soon as I was done, I'm like, I am starting the Miracle Morning. So I started on Monday. And just to give a little context, I've done it before, but I've never stuck with it for more than probably a week or two. Yeah. But I started it on Monday. Set my alarm for 5:10. I normally get up at 5:30, so it wasn't that big of a difference, but it was giving myself a little just extra time and implementing everything in this book. And it's only been a week, but honestly, it has made me feel so much more in control of my day. Because as real estate agents, our day can get away from us so quickly. We get a call from a client, somebody wants to see a house, there's an issue with an offer, and so all the things we thought we were going to do for the day, we've completely lost control.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most brilliant part of this book is I think everybody on a day basis, they feel they have a sense of no control, mm-hmm. right? All day long, we're reacting to, reacting to mm-hmm. all different scenarios. So I think that's why this is so powerful, is to be able to start your day off completely in control of your morning. It's not even, I can't even really, for someone who's never done it before, mm-hmm. it's hard to describe. Mm-hmm. So to get excited about being able to have your morning ritual, get up and just completely take control of your day, it's to at least start off that way is completely mind changing for some people.
Yeah, it sets the tone for your day. And like you said, it shows that you are in control. And it's a calm way to start rather than continuing to hit the snooze button until the very last minute when you have to get up and now you're going to be late for work or get the kids to school or whatever. But having that hour in the morning that's truly yours, especially if you can wake up before everyone else, it's amazing.
Yeah. And being excited for the next day, because part of the miracle morning, not only your morning routine, but you can start, preparing that the next day when you go to bed.
Yes.
We talk about that in here as well. Like your last thought of the day generally is your first thought in the morning. So if you're dreading getting up the night, the next day before you even go to bed, that's how you wake up. So if you can wake up excited, completely different mindset.
I completely agree. Do you want to, I don't know how much you want to share, but do you want to share a little bit about what you were telling me before we started recording of how this has kind of helped to change your life?
Absolutely. So I found this book and, a couple others when I was probably in one of the worst places in my life. I had hit rock bottom. I had found myself in a treatment facility at one point, I think I've talked about this in previous episodes, but this is about the same time frame that I've found this book for the first time, and digesting it, getting through it, and then implementing my miracle mornings. It really was a game changer for me. It just, being, like I said, again, being able to design your morning, being excited about the next day, feeling like you have some control over a certain aspect of your life is it's liberating. So yeah, very powerful for people who are struggling to get by day to day or might be in an extremely bad place in their life. Stuff like this is what really helps you, continue to move forward and to grow personally. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about this book, even though some people might think some of the concepts are fairly simple or they might not have time or whatever, but find the time. I promise you it will help.
He does a good job in the book of kind of, I don't know, shooting down people's excuses of why they say they're not a morning person or they don't have time or whatever. And he basically answers all of those excuses that people have.
Yeah, they're limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself you can't do something, no matter what it is, if it's waking up 15 minutes earlier or an hour earlier, ideally for your miracle morning, or, if you find an excuse, you're not going to be able to accomplish something. It's just limiting belief, and he addresses that, pretty clearly. And I like it because, even me going back over this stuff, I'm like, yeah, that reminds me of why I think this way or that way. So to be aware of those things is, again, that's the most important part. We're all human. We react to things differently. But to be aware of why we react to those things, that's the powerful part. That's the empowering part that allows you to take control of your life.
And I hope that our listeners are always reading the books along with us rather than just listening to our podcast, because, we try to do a good job of kind of summarizing and hitting the high points, but reading this book in particular is really important because you learn about his background, how he developed the miracle morning, and then you hear a lot of examples of people that it's helped. And like you were saying, there's a lot of different versions of miracle morning. Yeah,
that's one thing that we want our listeners to be aware of is there was the original, and then as they, I guess, grew his company or his presence, very successful book, they rewrote versions for specific people. So there's a miracle morning for real estate agents. There's a miracle morning for entrepreneurs. There's a bunch of different versions out there.
Network marketers.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever that is.
So we just want everyone to be aware that you can just get the original and the content and the takeaways are the same. But and don't feel the need to go out and have to buy like a couple different versions just because it's tailored for real estate agents or whatever. You basically get all the same information. They just rewrite the book tailored towards whatever it is you're doing specifically. So, like I said, if you go to buy the book and you see there's like 18 different versions, you're good with the original or whatever specifically pertains to you.
We don't do this with every book, but there was a lot of great information in the intro before he even gets into the chapters that we're going to share. But the foreword was actually written by Robert Kiyosaki, which I just thought was kind of a neat connection since Robert's book was the first one that we started with in the podcast. And he's, Robert says he's done all kinds of just self-development since the 70s, but Hal's book is really the one that stuck with him and what has helped with his success. And he said Hal's the first one to package everything into savers, which we will get into, but that's the acronym he uses for the different activities that we should do in the morning.
Right.
And this is a quote from Robert. He says, "The miracle morning is perfect for very busy, successful people. Going through savers every morning is like pumping rocket fuel into my body, mind, and spirit before I start my day every day." And I think that just kind of summarizes what you and I were saying about having control of your day and getting you motivated for what's next.
And I don't know if, anybody watching this seen our release video that we did on the incline, but that's kind of one of the things I highlight is like people like Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, all those. The trend comes out as you look at those successful people. Those successful people have successful routines, and part of their success, their daily routines is basically a morning routine. They're miracle mornings that they tailor to themselves. So
everyone that is successful has something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I totally agree. So in the intro, Hal is really kind of pumping up the book, and in my opinion, it's very justified. He didn't write this. He didn't think of the Miracle Morning to write a book and then to make money off of the
No.
book. He literally, and we'll get into it and kind of his story, but it's something that came to him over years and years, and he started to share it with his coaching clients, et cetera, and then eventually realized that he could help so many more people by writing a book because, when we did start with why, his biggest why is to impact the most people with helping them start their morning routine. But he says in the intro that Miracle Morning is one of the most practical, results-oriented, and effective methods for becoming the person you need to be to create everything you want in your life. And I know that sounds almost like too good to be true, but so much of this is just starting your day with the right mindset and those positive affirmations and those just knowing that what you want out of life is possible as long as you have the right mindset. So.
yeah, it's powerful. It's like, having, we've talked about this in past episodes, having goals, having your big why, it all ties in together for this. So you have to wake up every morning with looking forward to life and taking, the reins and taking control and becoming what you want to be. And you have to do that. You can't just get through life floundering around without those goals or, targets in the horizon, because you'll never grow. You'll never get anywhere. You'll never, you might stumble around and get lucky, but for the most part, you have to live a purposeful life. And this really sets you up for success by doing these things.
Yeah. And it can be really hard to change your mindset if you're somebody who, had a tough childhood and maybe aren't surrounded by the most supportive friends and family. Like, you kind of think in a woe is me type of attitude, but
Victim attitude.
Yes, exactly. But he is truly telling you that if you believe, you can achieve anything you want. It's truly your mindset. And by starting your morning in this way, that is going to be what helps you convince yourself that you can do these things.
Well, on that being said, believing you can be whatever you want to be, that was one of the things that I realized when I hit my rock bottom. Well, I've hit a couple, but the first one that I was talking about earlier, one of the things I realized, and it's kind of unrelated, just personal story, but
Sure.
well, it's not unrelated. It's but so we're children. I've told this story to several other people before. It was just I've never read this. It was just something that I came to realize myself. As children, we're told you can be anything you want to be, right? You can be the president of the United States. You can be an astronaut. You can be whatever, right? And then as we start to mature and we grow, we get basically just bombarded by naysayers, negativity, all this other stuff, all these other things. And then at a certain point in our life, we're like, yeah, that's it. Those beliefs become fairy tales. But the hardcore reality is, obviously there's certain things off the table the older you get, but
Sure.
I came to a realization that really, if you set your mind to something, you can become whatever it is you want to be, no matter what your circumstances are. It's just a matter of focusing, having, just goals that you will not relinquish no matter what. And you can be successful no matter where you are coming from, no matter what your circumstances are. It's just a matter of how hard you want to work to do that.
Yeah. I think Hal says in the book that, we call birth like the miracle of life and the miracle of birth, but we leave off that miracle as we start to get older. Like, why can't miracles still be something that happen? And when he means miracles, he means truly something that you've put your mind to and that you achieve through your thoughts and your actions.
Yeah. Every day is a miracle. For anybody who's ever went through a suicidal phase where
survived cancer or anything like that.
Yeah, was a survivor, Hal's story. He's got a couple different really crazy things he's overcome. You get to the point and you realize that every day is a gift and you should live your life that way.
Yeah. So let's give a little bit of a background on Hal. And again, you can read through the book and get all the details because he went through some crazy things. But basically this all kind of started back in 2001 when he was in a major car accident and he was told that he would never walk again. And so he was basically, in the hospital for several months, going through rehab, et cetera. But he couldn't, the one thing he didn't lose was his mind and just his attitude and his, he said basically he just began to be grateful for things. And then that helped to propel him into wanting to walk again, which he eventually did, and then wanting to be top in his company. He worked for Cutco, which I think is a knife. That's that knife company, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But he became number 6 salesman in the whole nation in the same year that he was told he would never walk again, all because of his attitude.
Well, he actually died too.
Oh yeah, tell that part. Yeah,
well,
I forgot about that.
It was a horrific.
Accident.
He had a head-on collision with a car going like 70.
Yep.
So when the paramedics arrived, he was actually dead. And I think in the book, he said he was dead for over 6 minutes before they were able to revive him. And he had like 14, 15 major broken bones. So yeah, he actually died.
Yeah. That's a
and then he was told he wasn't ever going to walk again too.
And then to within that same year, become number 6 salesperson in your company is pretty amazing. And I guess that's when he started to write his first book. I can't remember what his first book was called, but Miracle Morning isn't his first one. And then he became a motivational speaker. He started coaching, having some private, coaching clients that he was helping. And his first book was published in 2006, but 100% of his royalties was stolen by his publisher, who moved overseas, and he never saw that money again. Yeah. But he said he didn't let that bother him.
More adversity.
But he said his attitude then became, can't change it, and he moved on, which I love because so many of us get stuck, wrapped around things that we can't change, things that are in the past, things that we can't take back. And all we have to do is tell ourselves, well, I can't change it. All I can do is move on from that. So, and so he was doing really well, actually, with his private coaching clients, etc. 2007 happened. The economy crashed. People could no longer afford to pay for private coaching. They didn't need motivational speakers, etc. He said he actually lost his house. He and his fiance at the time had to move in with his dad. I think he was in tons of credit card debt, etc. Basically, one of the lowest points in his life. And I think you made the point that he said this was harder than when he almost died.
So when he became, financially, burdened, and I think he actually did he lose his house and all that stuff. He said overcoming all of the financial problems was harder than overcoming dying. He said, and he became suicidal. He said in the book, he admitted to that. And one of the reasons why he said it was easier to overcome the death part, being in the accident and dying, as opposed to the financial stuff, is when he was in the accident, he had brilliant medical staff. All his family was by his side. Everybody was supportive, all that stuff. And he was able to overcome that. And then, but when it came to the financial stuff, he basically was drowning alone.
Yep.
So once his depression kicked in, suicidal ideology, all that stuff, he was basically making that battle by himself.
Yes.
So that's why it was so much harder to overcome.
Which totally makes sense. And that's actually something we'll talk when we talk through some strategies in this book too, is getting just some accountability partners and people to support you. But so basically he reached out to a friend of his when he was kind of in his lowest depression. And he was surprised when his friend asked him, well, do you run? Are you running every day? And Hal's like, no, I hate running. And his one suggestion to him was basically go out and move your body.
Yeah.
So, which I love because I'm a huge proponent of physical activity.
Well, of course. And, for anybody who's dealing with depression and stuff like that, so one of the biggest ways to combat it is by just moving, exercising, get out, take a walk, get a run, whatever. I mean, one of the best things you can do to get yourself out of
which is so hard for a lot of people when they are in that lowest level of depression, is actually getting out and doing movement. But basically when he was on one of these runs, that's when kind of the initial spark of Miracle Morning came to him. He said he was listening to a Jim Rohn motivational speech or something. And the one quote that he basically credits to him starting Miracle Morning is Jim Rohn had said, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become. And that was his absolute aha moment. He said he basically sprinted home and started to work on what eventually became the Miracle Morning.
Yeah. On how to improve himself.
Yes. Exactly.
So he basically leaned on all the stuff that he had read before, like what are all the most successful, most effective ways that I can help improve myself. And that's how he started wargaming the process of what became the Miracle Morning.
And I think he probably did a lot of experimentation of what actually the 6 activities are that kind of make the biggest success in the morning. And I know he was using it with some of his coaching clients, et cetera. But, and then in 2012 is when he actually published the Miracle Morning. And then I found out that I listened to the book and then I read it on a Kindle version, but in the audio version, they didn't mention this and they did in the Kindle. So our readers might have missed this, but he was actually diagnosed with cancer in 2016, a very rare form of cancer. He was giving 10 to 30% chance of living. And so I wondered what happened to him, because in the book he doesn't mention it at all. So I Googled it, and basically he used a book called Love, Medicine, and Miracles to help cure himself. He did have chemo, but he used these positive affirmations saying that he would 100% be one of the 10 to 30% of people that survive. And then he did a lot of holistic things to help his body after chemo, et cetera. But now he is completely cancer-free and still around. So I love that.
Yeah, so the guy's basically the epitome of perseverance, right?
Yes.
He did die, came back, and they. I don't think we talked about that earlier, but they told him, or maybe you did say they were told him he wasn't going to walk ever again, but he came back to run an ultra marathon.
Yes, I did mention that.
Yeah, so they were told him he was not going to walk, came back, said nope, and then ran ultra marathons, and then lost everything financially, came back, built his wealth back. And then again overcame cancer. So, it's just inspiration. It should be inspiration for a lot of people to say, no matter how bad your situation is, if you stay positive, you move forward, you can come out of it.
Every setback brought him to a point where he was that much more mentally strong and believed that much more in your positive affirmations and what your mental aptitude can do for you to get you where you want to be.
They become so much more meaningful when you know what it feels like to be at rock bottom.
Yep.
So,
and he even says in here that it's crucial to understand and embrace the perspective that anything another person has overcome or accomplished is basically just evidence that anything that we want can be achieved in life. We can cure cancer if our mind and our body are strong enough. We can come back from a near-death experience, et cetera. So, and one of the most important things in doing that is making sure that you're accepting total responsibility for all aspects of your life.
Yep.
And he makes a good he distinguishes here between blame and responsibility. Blame is maybe who's at fault. So in his car accident, he obviously didn't hit himself. Somebody hit him, so that person is to blame. But he was the one that had to take responsibility to bring himself back, to learn to walk again, to, be the best in his business, et cetera. So no matter what happens to you in life is not having that victimhood, but taking responsibility of how you're going to get yourself from where you are now to where you want to be.
Yeah. I don't know if it's in the book or not, but one of the most powerful things you can do, or that you can take control of your life, is it's not, like you said, the victimhood, what happened to you. The only thing you really can control in life is how you react to certain situations. someone cuts you off on the highway, someone, I don't know, steals your money, cheats you, or you get shorthanded at work or something like that. All of those things are outside of your control.
Yep.
The only thing you really have control of is how you react to it. So it's very powerful once you basically have control of how you react to certain situations. And that's why the miracle morning is so powerful, because it gives you that, wonderful feeling that you're totally in control. So day-to-day actions, as we live hectic, crazy lives with everything going wrong all the time, we have to understand that we have control of how we react to those situations.
Yes.
So I think that goes hand in hand with the miracle morning. And basically, we start our morning off with the miracle morning. It gives us a lot more, resolute stance
it's like having
position.
Armor to protect you for your day.
Yeah, you've started your day off in such a certain, powerful, positive way. You're much more resolute to all those crazy things that are going to happen throughout the rest of the day. So.
He talks about it as he wants to live a level 10 life. So if you would ask anyone, especially people who are in situations that aren't the best, if you ask them, did you see yourself becoming this person or being in this situation? Of course, people would always say no. Like, I never wanted to hit rock bottom. I never wanted to be homeless, etc. So he said, we have to think about achieving our level 10 life. And too many people resign themselves to just a life of mediocrity and just accepting what life is giving them rather than being proactive.
Yep. It's about being on the offense as opposed to just reacting to everything that happens in your life.
He gives kind of a sad statistic from the Social Security Administration where, I guess, if you follow 100 people at the start of their career and you follow them for 40 years, 1 person will be wealthy, 4 will be financially secure, 5 will continue to work because they have to, 36 will be dead, and 54 will be broke and dependent on either friends, family, or the government. So that means that only 5% of us will actually succeed in creating a successful life of freedom. The rest of us are going to be, hopefully not, but dead or dependent on somebody else. And when I read that, that's exactly why I started my own financial freedom journey. Is I do not want to be that person that's 65, 70, and I barely have enough money to survive. I want to be traveling the world and having amazing experiences. So.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about putting forth all of the knowledge and, material that's out there to help people build their successful and hopefully financially free life. All of these things matter. So, I will teach you to be rich, all of those fundamentals on finance, and then this, mindset book, and, designing your day, all of that stuff adds up to success and whatever your definition of freedom is.
Right. And he says you really can't be free or successful unless you're level 10 in all areas of your life. So finances, relationships, your job, family, etc. And so there's a lot of high achievers who are successful probably in their business, but their relationships suffer or their health suffers because of it. So the miracle morning, the way he designed it with the 6 different activities you do in the morning, they're literally to hit all areas of your life to help you grow in all of them.
Yeah. A lot of things will refer to it as life balance, right? So it's all about making sure that you're attending to all of the different aspects of your life and making sure that they're all good as opposed to one failing. I mean, you can have all the money in the world. We've talked about this before. If you're failing personally, emotionally, or with that's how you end up committing suicide or whatever, right? So some of the, a lot of the richest people in the world still, I mean, look at Robin Williams. People like that is a good example. Yeah, he's super successful, super rich, and still ended up taking his own life because certain aspects of his life were not where they needed to be. So.
Yeah, and if you even think about it too, even you can have a great relationship with your significant other, but if finances is a constant stress for you, eventually it's going to wear on your relationship because you're constantly, arguing about it, or you can't do the things you want, or barely able to pay your bills. So all of those things have to be in balance.
Absolutely.
He does talk about that there's 3 decisive steps that you have to understand to rise above the mediocrity. So to not be within that 95%, this is what we have to understand. And first, it's acknowledging that the 95% is a thing, to embrace the fact that we don't want to be within that 95% and that we commit to living our lives differently. So, there's a lot of, unfortunately, people out there that struggle with a lot of things: obesity, abuse of prescription drugs, their relationships are failing, financial struggles, etc. Recognizing those areas of your life that you need to improve. If you're a level 10 in one, but your health is a level 1, understanding that you have to shift your priorities.
Yeah. Those are byproducts of whatever you're doing with your life. What are your daily habits, all that stuff. So, if you're, obviously there's certain, I don't want to offend anybody. There's certain, people out there who have no control over, their body composition, but
health issues,
but a lot of times if you look around, all of the things that are in your physical life are basically manifestations of what your habits are.
For sure. And then the second one is to identify the causes of mediocrity. So I thought some of these were really good.
I absolutely love these parts.
Yeah. So the first one was the rearview mirror syndrome. And basically that is, constantly blaming what's happened, where you are now, blaming that for what's happened to you in the past. So.
Yeah. I was the same way. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I think this is a huge pitfall for most people. They judge their self-worth, their current living situation, their current situations, whatever that may be, on all of the mistakes that they made in the past. So this is very powerful to be aware of. To this day, I know people who live in the past and they're just miserable because they can't get over those things, right? What you are today, or what you are tomorrow is definitely does not equal what you were in the past. What you are tomorrow is based on what you do today. So don't live in the past. It's okay to glance over your shoulder from time to time and look back at your mistakes, but you can't dwell there.
Right.
So I think this is a very, very powerful, cause of mediocrity that he highlights in the book.
And for a lot of us, it takes, maybe getting a counselor, a psychiatrist, somebody to help us through that. So don't feel that this is something you just one day have to wake up and be like, oh, I completely forget everything that's happened in my past. Like it can take an expert to help you get over that. So, don't feel that you're weak if you need that help to do that. I've done a lot of counseling in my life and it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
The second one is lack of purpose. I love this one personally.
Well, we just covered this in a book called Your Why.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
This is basically boiling down to your big why.
Yeah. But I think part of it too, for me, it's a little bit more at the micro level, because before I became a real estate agent 5 years ago, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, I've shared it with some other people, but I had an eating disorder for 15 years of my life.
I didn't know that.
I would binge and then I would feel really guilty about stuff. And I realized that so much of it was because I wasn't living my true life's purpose. I had jobs I didn't really like. It was before I met Lindsay, things like that. But once I became a real estate agent, I swear almost overnight, because I was doing something I loved and I finally made my own decision of I'm my own boss, I almost completely forgot about food. I would go all day without eating sometimes because I'd be so busy, and that had never happened to me in my entire life. And so for me, that's a really, really good one that people need to think about. If you're miserable in your job, I understand you need the money. I understand all of that, but doing what you can to really feel that there's a purpose in your life.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't always have to be your job, but just whatever it is that gives you that purpose. So, and then just some isolating incidents, he said. So just, again, it's kind of the rearview mirror thing, but just, something happens to you, and it doesn't mean that just because that one thing happened to you that it's going to dictate how the rest of your life has to go.
Yeah.
So, lack of accountability. This is another great one.
Yeah. Huge. I mean, I'm sure if anybody would sit here and think about this one for a little while, they can probably pull up many examples in their personal life where this has been relevant. Me, I was a gym rat for a really long time. Most of the time I had a gym partner. Having a gym partner, you know that person is going to show up at the gym. You're 10 times more likely to show up at the gym as opposed to dragging your own butt out of the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and going to the gym. So accountability for fitness, for your miracle morning. And he gave resources in the book about how you can find somebody, an accountability partner, there's a couple different websites and stuff, but yeah, having an accountability partner or a coach or whatever, it can be huge. It keeps you on task, keeps you moving forward.
Yep. And I think that goes along with the next one, which is the having a mediocre circle of influence.
Yep. We've talked about this in the past.
Yeah, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend time with, et cetera. But I even think about you and I in starting this podcast. We're busy with real estate and family and things like that, so it's not always easy to schedule times for us to do this.
Yeah.
But we hold each other accountable, So it's like just anything in life, if you have somebody else that you're going through it with, that's a positive influence, it just makes it that much easier. So
yeah, because we don't have the exact same goals but we have very similar goals and we want to move in the same direction. So to surround yourself people, if you don't have more successful people to mentor yourself or to be around or, someone, whatever the case may be, it's always, at least have people who are willing to grow with you. Right. So that's important.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Completely agree. And then lack of personal development. If you're listening to this podcast, you already are one step above this because you're already reading these books and listening to our podcast, but just making sure that you're surrounding yourself with whatever positive information you can to grow, just like you shared the story of when you were at rock bottom and you were reading Tony Robbins and, Miracle Morning, and it's also important.
I think if you don't pay attention to this one, no matter whether you have all the other ones in order or not, you're still not going to really get to where you want to be.
I agree.
You might be happy and all that other stuff, but if you really want to grow your personal situation, you have to continually do personal development. It doesn't matter. I don't care where you're at. When I was in the military, in the Air Force specifically, they constantly pushed personal development in every aspect all the time. So it's very important, whether you're in the military, whether you're a firefighter or whatever your job is, you should constantly be looking to develop yourself no matter what.
Yep. Always be the best version of yourself that you can be. And then the last one is just a lack of urgency. And, this happens to a lot of people. They just get into a routine, and I don't have children, but I would assume it's very easy when you have children to just kind of put everything that you want on hold while you're raising your children, which totally makes sense. And so just understanding that, your tomorrow might not happen. It could, your life can be gone in an instant. And so if you don't start now and take action now, you're never going to be the person you want to be. Yeah,
you're never going to do anything, right? So I'll lean back on Tony Robbins on this one. Is he talks about a lot of the stuff he talks about is immediate action, massive immediate action, and that's when change happens. If you don't take action, you can sit there and read all the books you want to. You can dream about all these wonderful things you're going to do, but if you don't get up and take immediate action, which is the sense of the lack, he says lack of urgency, but if you have to have a sense of urgency and action if you want to actually make changes and grow.
Yep. And that exactly leads into the third point of decisive steps that you need to take to be out of the mediocrity is drawing that line in the sand, making a decision right now that today you're going to take action. So as you're reading this book, you don't have to wait until the very end to start your miracle morning. He gives you enough tips and ways that you can do it. You can go on his website. He's got a quick start guide that's free. So you can start today doing your miracle morning. So then he also gives 3 imperative arguments in the book of why you basically deserve to do the miracle morning. And the very first one is you're just as worthy as anyone else in creating the life that you want. And it's crucial that you live in alignment with that truth. And that's so hard for so many of us, but to know that we're deserving, we deserve a great life. We deserve to be top real estate agents just like anyone else. So,
it's you have to, I think he even talks about in the book is, because we'll talk about this probably next episode, whatever, but we're talking about affirmations, right? Even if you feel like you're lying to yourself, as long as you keep telling yourself the positive things, eventually you're going to start believing it.
Yes.
And I don't think that you're ever going to push forward in your life if you feel like you need to go somewhere to grow or whatever, if you don't truly believe it in yourself and you don't believe in your self-worth, you're never going to actually take action on it because you don't feel like you deserve it. Bottom line is every single person on this planet deserves to be healthy and successful, and you have the tools to do it. You just got to believe it.
Yes. And the second one is that you truly have to dedicate time every single day to becoming the person you need and want to be. You can't just sit and wish for it and hope you achieve your goals, wish that you were, wealthier, etc. You have to take action. As much as I believe in the power of positive thinking and affirmations and stuff, it's not going to do anything if I just sit on my butt.
Nope. The things you read today, the things you do, your daily habits, all that stuff is what you are in the future. So you got to work on the stuff now, immediately.
Yes.
And you will become the person you want to be in the future.
Yep. And then the third thing is that understanding that how you wake up and your morning routine or lack of it dramatically affects your level of success in every single area of your life. By simply changing how you wake up, you can transform your area or any area of your life faster than anything else, which is, it seems impossible, but as he goes through this book, you understand why. And once you start doing the Miracle Morning, you get it.
Yeah. And, I think we talked about this before the show, but, I don't think we have it in the show notes, but, typically the last thought that you have before you go to bed is generally the first one you have when you wake up. So if you go to bed dreading tomorrow, not wanting to get out of bed, hating the fact that you got to get up to go to work, that's how you're going to feel when your alarm goes off. So whole shift in mindset.
Yes. And so he talks about the two biggest challenges that he was trying to overcome with the Miracle Morning. One is finding the time. And this is going to be probably people's number one excuse.
Absolutely.
Is you're telling me the Miracle Morning takes an hour. I don't have another hour in my day. And so he experimented a lot with how to implement this throughout his day. He tried in the evening, but found that he was typically too exhausted from his day to really give it the dedication it needed. He tried maybe after lunch, but then would find that things would, come up during his day that needed his attention at that time. He was not a morning person, but eventually succumbed to the fact that morning was going to have to be the time that he did it the very first.
It was funny too, because he hated the fact that was the realization too. It's like, because he was so not a morning person. He was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This is the best time. So
yes. He has a quote in here too from Steve Pavlina. It says, "It's been said that the first hour is the rudder of the day. If I'm lazy or haphazard in my actions during the first hour after I wake up, I tend to have a fairly lazy and unfocused day. But if I strive to make the first hour optimally productive, the rest of the day tends to follow suit," which is exactly what we've been saying. But I thought that was the perfect way to say it. And then the second challenge that he had when developing his Miracle Morning was really deciding what was going to be the most impactful. So the 6 activities that he came up with after doing, like, as you said, a lot of research, kind of reading from people that have these type of Miracle Morning activities every day is 1, meditation, affirmations, journaling, visualization, reading, and then exercise. So some type of physical movement. And next week, we'll actually get into each 6 of those and deep dive each of them a little bit more.
Basically, these are the meat and potato of what comprises of the Miracle Morning.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And on the, on that finding time thing, before we get too far ahead, like, I believe it will be the number one limiting factor for a lot of people. And the bottom line is, if you want to do something bad enough, you're going to find time to do it. So, and keep in mind, the whole book is, the Miracle Morning is about an hour, right? But if you only have 10 minutes or 15 minutes, if you can squeeze even 3 or 4 of these activities in the time that you have, it's going to completely change things as well, right? So don't move forward thinking that you have to have an hour every morning. You got to get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It can be a 15, 20-minute ritual. You tailor it all to what your needs are, right? It's just it's a matter of just taking control of the time that you do have and implementing it every day. Yeah.
He even gives a 6-minute Miracle Morning for on those days when you're really rushed. And I think he even says, he recommends doing it 7 days a week, and that's what he does. But if you can really implement it even 5 days a week on the 5 days that you're going to work, that you're the most productive, it's still going to be life-changing. So my personal plan is to do it Monday through Saturday and then probably give myself Sunday to sleep in and decide if I want to do it or not. But yeah,
I'm done. You're so lazy.
Yeah, right. Get out of here.
I'm going to sleep in a day of the week.
And then the last 2 chapters that we're going to cover today, he really talks about the importance of how you wake up in the morning and even gives some tips on how you can help yourself if you're not a morning person. I guess thankfully for this book, am a morning person. I always have been. The military probably helped with that too, but I'm the person that could be in bed at 8 p.m., but by 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready to go. So this wasn't that difficult for me, but for some of you, it might be, especially those night owls, and that's okay. He gives tips in here. But he says, when you delay waking up, you are basically resisting your life. So we were talking about this. If you're somebody who constantly hits the snooze button 5-6 times, and you do that for, 45, 50 minutes, you're not only resisting the fact that you need to get up and start your day, but you're starting your day with negative energy. And then you're also disrupting your body because you've started a new sleep cycle, haven't finished it. Now the alarm went off and now you're just going to be groggy for the rest of your day.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who hits the snooze button,
I don't know anybody like that. No. She'll never watch the episode anyway. So.
Jamie's wife might hit the snooze button once in a while.
My wife is, she drives me crazy. She's notorious for hitting the snooze like 5 times every morning. So I'm just going to start my miracle morning before her alarm ever goes off.
I think that's great. Yeah. And then while she's snoozing for 45 minutes, you have that time to yourself.
I'm up doing yoga or whatever.
I know you're up early because you and I are texting about real estate at 5:30 in the morning. And then one thing I really like is he talks about how much sleep do we actually need. I love that he doesn't put a number to it. He truly says that it's an individual preference. But one thing he really emphasizes is that it's a mental thing. The sleep you think you need is what's preventing you from potentially getting up early. So I'm a diehard person who I think I need 8 hours of sleep. Like if I get 7.5, I don't feel the same. But a lot of that is
mentality. Yeah, it's really cool. And I would never have really come to that conclusion by myself. But it makes perfect sense. He said, if you're an 8 hour a night person and you get the 7.5 and you tell yourself before you're going to bed, oh my God, I'm so screwed for tomorrow. I'm going to be so tired. You will wake up that way.
Yep.
But if you tell yourself, I only need 5 hours of sleep, obviously some people can't get away with 5 hours of sleep, but 6, whatever, then the mentality of it, you wake up with the right mentality, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's kind of neat to think of it that way.
He's even got affirmations in the book. I think it's in the book, or you can go to his website, miraclemorning.com, and he's got affirmations in there, which you can repeat to yourself at night that basically says, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I'm getting 7 hours of sleep. This is exactly the amount of sleep that I need for my body to be the most productive tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. So just playing those mind games with yourself that this is what you need and you'll be fine in the morning. And then he talks about making your mornings like Christmas morning. He talks about that a lot throughout.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just, personally have experiences before, as I talked earlier about when I found this book and I was at rock bottom and basically couldn't function from day to day, and then started implementing these miracle mornings. I found I lived the same experience. So it was like knowing that you can design your day. You start by starting off with your miracle morning. It literally it is weird because you're like, you get excited to wake up the next day. Like I'm waking up tomorrow and I'm taking control of my day immediately, and the day is going to be what I make of it. It's huge. It's exciting, and you should wake up that every morning being excited for your day, because the big picture is every single day of our life is a gift.
Yes.
And we should live our lives that way. We should have that mentality, like tomorrow I'm going to do, it wouldn't necessarily, it'd be hard to live every single day as if it was your last, but you should have that mentality that, you're blessed to have one more day every day you wake up. So.
And I think it ties back to finding your why too. Is when I wake up in the morning, I am excited because it's what can I achieve today that gets me that much closer to my why or my goals that I'm trying to achieve. So, he does give a 5-step snooze-proof strategy for those of you that need it. He calls this increasing your wake-up motivation level. So one thing you can do, which we already discussed, is setting your intentions before bed, having positive expectations for the morning, and that the sleep you're going to get, the amount of sleep, is exactly what you need. 2, you can move your alarm clock across the room for you.
I've actually made this recommendation to my wife. I'm like, just
that's actually a good idea.
Get up.
Yeah, because once your body starts moving, it's much harder. And I found this because sometimes our dog needs to go out like a half an hour before I'm going to get up. And then when I get up to let him out, and I'm like, well, I'm not going back to sleep.
Out.
So, yeah. And then brush your teeth, which is like kind of an obvious one. But he said the reason for this is just you're kind of doing mindless things that your brain doesn't have to think much about, but it's giving you time to wake up. You know, it's always nice to have fresh breath too. I wouldn't want to sit.
I do this. I do a lot of this. So I get up immediately. I walk straight to the bathroom and brush my teeth.
Yep.
And then I always splash my face with like ice cold water
to help wake up.
That's the first thing I do every morning when I wake up.
Yeah, that's great. And then he says it's really good too to drink a full glass of water because you're mildly dehydrated while you're sleeping. And so he recommends having all of these things ready before you go to bed at night. So having your glass of water, everything ready, so it's just automatic and you can do it. And then the last thing is getting dressed in your workout clothes. Basically, it helps with your motivation. Now you're ready to do exercise, which is part of the routine. You're already in your clothes and there's no excuse. You're probably not going to go to
sense of commitment at that point.
Yeah, you're not going to go back to bed in your workout clothes probably.
Well, you can do what I do and I just sleep in my workout clothes.
You can do that. Do you do that? I know some people that
I do it sometimes, yeah. If I know I got to get up early for like a run or a hike or something, I'll just get my workout clothes on and I jump out of bed, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I did that a lot in like
although that
basic
might be
training.
kind of counterintuitive to what he's saying, because the whole action of putting your clothes on in the morning that's the commitment part. So I don't know, maybe I'm being counterintuitive by some of the stuff I'm doing, but
I think it's whatever works for you personally.
Yeah.
So. Well, that's kind of the summary of I don't even know how many chapters we went through. I think it was the first 5 or 6. These are the first chapters before he actually gets into the meat and potatoes of the Miracle Morning, which we will talk about next week. And then we already have 2 amazing guests lined up who have basically implemented and are coaching Miracle Morning themselves. So excited to have them on in the future too.
Yeah, I think this was a great way to open up with this book. Looking forward to finishing the rest of it with the audience.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. You want to take us out?
Sure. Yeah. So if you got any value out of today's episode, or if you think someone else might have some benefit from seeing or hearing what we're talking about, please consider sharing and liking, subscribing. Join us next week as we delve into the key components of structuring your own Miracle Morning. And also, if you would like to find out more about the A-Team, check us out at the.ateam.homes on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Sweet. See everyone next time.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.